What up, thou? Yes, sir. It is Thursday night, 6 p.m. Each and every Thursday night. The Boss and the Sauce goes live. That's what's going down today, y'all. How my people feeling out there? I see we had a lot of people already in the chat today. Our guy Flipper13, Joe and Nisi, even our guy Big Ragu, who's backstage right now, was already in the chat. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling and get our guy, the Big Ragu, inside. Big Ragu, what up, though, Big Ragu?
Hey, what's going on, man? You can see I'm in the hotel room upstairs. Too much noise, too much money being passed around for me to get my hands on the book right now, but I had to come back up in the room and do the show. Man, DJ Big Boss, what's going on today, my man?
Oh, man, you know, I'm going through it. I'm going through it, Big Ragu. I can't wait to get out there with y'all, man. I'm getting all the texts. I'm getting texts of people that's going to be showing up. I'm getting texts from people that's already there. I talked to you earlier today. You know, I'm just sitting here waiting. You know, the clock is just ticking. I can't wait to get out there and have some fun with you guys, man. How they been treating you so far out there?
Not too bad. My day started early, you know, back east. So I'm not running on fumes yet, but it's a long day so far. I got flashlights hanging from the ceiling to give me a little light up here, you know, so I'm doing all right.
Wow.
I'm doing all right, yeah.
Hey, you looking good right there, man. You look like you got executive suite number 57312.
Yeah. I'm up on the rooftop pretty soon. Don't worry about it.
That's right, man. So all those that are in attendance today, we will be coming back on tomorrow, and I'll be in Vegas as well. So the whole show is going to be live from Vegas, and we gonna have to figure something out tomorrow, man. Like, I know you got a nice hotel, but that ain't doing us no justice for seeing what is going on in Las Vegas right here from Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, you know, you got to take what you can get. I'll spread a little bit of love to you guys through the cameras here, but yeah, we'll get a little livelier look tomorrow when you get out here in the casino. You know, we'll be down in the sports book. We'll chop it up over there a little bit and see what we can put together. But for tonight, it's just hermano, my man.
There you go, man. I love it, man. And you know, I'm feeling really relaxed getting ready for Vegas, man. I haven't overdid it this week. So as far as my capping, I'm kind of isolated in a few spots. I've been looking around and seeing what some other good cappers like yourself and some other low baggers had to go out right there. I like your look with Bowling Green and a couple other looks some people got out there that I like that I'm going to be using those as my second line of defense when I get to Vegas because I'm all teed up in my first line of defense, which we'll talk about those picks and go over them a little later on, man. But you know, I just want to. I don't even know, Big Ragu. I don't even know right now. It's just I'm excited to see you right here, and I wish I was there, man. It's crazy.
We wish you were here too, man. It's gonna go quick though. You know, there's no clocks on the walls out here, so time's always spinning around and it moves quick. So that being said, speaking of quick, how about these friggin' Thursday night football games? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on already. I always warn people about Thursday night football because I always expect the unexpected on Thursday night. So you got San Francisco losing, Appalachian State, big double-digit favorite. They're losing. I don't know what's going on with that Baylor game yet, but so far I'm on App State. That was one of my plays. I know I'm not too happy about it right now, but you know what? It's early yet. They could score 30, 40 points a game, so they could bounce back. But the night is young. Like I said, the night is young. So
absolutely. So you're on the side with App State tonight? Because me and my guy Noli, we went on the under in this one. 10 points is not that bad, but we know Appalachian State got to get back in the game. And to cover and get back in the game, it's going to be close for our under.
Yeah, no.
At this point.
Listen, that game I told Dom tonight, I says, if you like Georgia Southern, you have to like the under. If you like App State, you got to like the over. So not that they're going to correlate exactly, but I was, you know, if App State scores what they're supposed to score, close to 40 points a game, that would put the game over in itself, you know, almost. So for that being said, so your under's looking pretty good right now, my man.
So far, so good. And then on the show, I gave the over in the Baylor game, which ain't treating me too good right now. It's 7-0. But the numbers near 60, 57. So I got a lot of work to do over there. And then I had the over in the Niners game. I just seen they tied it up 7-7. So I think that over. In the NFL, it seems like if it gets to 24 in the first half, it's going over so far in the season.
Yeah.
So I think I might get to that over on that one. I was scared to mess with my Niners. You know, the 10, it looked sweet to a lot of Niner fans that's been on them. But to me, I was a little scared, tippy toeing. I'll say it. These guys gonna take a break on one of these games, and if they pull this one off, I'm definitely fading them ATS until I win or lose or whatever. But let's talk. Now I didn't get a chance to talk to you. You know, it's been traveling and shows, and from us back in August, early August, and the amount of work we had to do seemed like a lot doing those shows, but now it's nothing compared to this weekly regimen of picks and shows and all that stuff. So we haven't even got a good chance to talk about the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah. Well, listen, now the Breeders' Cup, for those who don't know how it unfolds, there's 2 days of action in the Breeders' Cup. There's Friday's card and Saturday's card. Friday's card consists of 5 races. It's from the 5th race to the 9th race. 5 races 5 through 9, and it's what they call Future Stars races, meaning that they're 2-year-old juvenile, 2-year-olds, and so they're going to feature all the youngsters tomorrow. So 5 races of youngster races. Matter of fact, when I was on the plane ride, I did a little prequel back home before I left. But then when I got on the plane, I started turning it up a little bit I started getting my paper and pencil out. I got all my notes. I got my program info. So I'm pretty much keyed into tomorrow for the most part on 90% of it. And then Saturday's the big day. Saturday, they lay it all on the line. All the horses come from all over the world. The top quality, every division, turf, dirt, mile, classic distance, sprints, you name it, you got it. All the best horses in the world will be in Santa Anita Friday and Saturday. And if you're a horse racing fan, it's probably the biggest day of the year to make money, because you're going to get some long price horses that are real quality horses. That you're going to get some 15, 20 to 1 shots that are legitimate contenders. Not like you're going to bet a maiden race at the track on a Thursday where you're betting a $6,000 claimer that's going off at 21. You're getting a champion horse at 20 to 1. So it's worth a shot. If you can pair them up, more power to you.
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity to cash.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had to talk with the old man not too long ago. He's got a hot pick for me for tomorrow's races. He told me his pick is too secretive for the Friday races. I can't get a hold to those Friday races, but being a child of this horse racing thing and coming up in it, I love it. I love betting the games. I love doing it. It's just not something that I do on the regular, but when these big races and all that kind of stuff come up, I really enjoy it. Like, I'm noticing more and more as I get older that I'm just a natural. I'm a natural at the numbers. I pretty much know my breeds. I know my trainers. I know my jockeys, and it's a continuous thing. Like the guys that can hit 20 to 1 on a Tuesday, they just in tune with the game and stuff like that. But these big games, I come out, and we notice when these big meets happen, all kinds of people come out, and I'm one of those people that come out, and I'm coming out to Vegas, and I'm coming to make some money. Pop's gonna hand me a hot one, and I haven't been so busy, I haven't had a chance. And usually by now, me, we did plenty of races, shows in the past. I usually been and broke it down, had a lean or something. Right now, I haven't even looked at the fields yet, Big Ragu, but it's all good. Once this show is over tonight, I'm gonna get a lot of impact studied in, and in the morning it's just gonna be cruising. I'm gonna be listening to some podcasts and all that good stuff. So I'll be well equipped, and the races will already be going when I get there. But let's talk about a little controversial media stuff. We wouldn't be a sports show if we didn't stop to talk about what's going on at Santa Anita with the horses dying and all that stuff. And plenty of races were canceled before, but here we go, Breeders' Cup. They wasn't canceling that for the world. Now I look at it as the West Coast been taking a hit with this track being down. Our guy Bob Baffer's doing horrible right now, and a lot of other horses are not. They're having to move around and do stuff. Why don't you let the people know how you feel about it? Because where you come from, there's plenty of horse. You're well aware of horses that die. Some of them
Sure.
it's the medicine, some of it's the food. My dad was telling me a long time ago this happened before in Kentucky. Almost 100 horses died or something that was going on, and it never really stopped no races. So now I'm thinking in the Santa Anita race, there's going to be some kind of impact from what's been going on at that track. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's one of those things where it's an unfortunate thing that happens in horse racing. You got 2,000 pound athletes, and they're very susceptible, especially where their ankles are. You got a lot of weight on them horses. But if something goes wrong with the surface or the track, or they take a bad misstep or something, it happens. Hopefully, they don't have to what they call put them down. If they get hurt, sometimes some of their damages are irreparable, so they have to euthanize those beautiful animals. But it's one of the black eyes, that nobody really likes to talk about, but it happens. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. But it's not just limited to Santa Anita. It happens at other racetracks too. But Santa Anita more prominently this year because the track conditions. They were trying to get the surface correct for a while, and they had to shut it down because I think a lot of it was due to weather. You guys had a lot of rain early in the season, and the tracks, they weren't able to hold up for whatever reason. They were having a problem with the surfaces, and they try to get it right. But it's just it's very unfortunate now to err on the side of safety for this particular meet because, like we're saying, these are world champions coming from everywhere, every walks of life here. So in California, there's a very unique surface at Santa Anita. When the horses run, they have a downhill course over there. It's a 6 furlong course. They start at the top of a hill and they run down and they start turning to the left, and then they cross over onto the dirt track, and then they got to hang a quick right. So what they did there is they eliminated that course for the Breeders' Cup. That was a 6.5 furlong race. So now that 6.5 turf race, it is now a 5 furlong race, and they're doing it on the inner track. So they've kind of eliminated any type of crossing patterns with dirt and grass, so to make it more safe for the horses. But that's one thing they've done. So they've changed the distance there, and they've. Trust me, these people, these athletes, they're superstar athletes. They're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. More so, a lot of these horses, they get treated better than some of us people in the human ranks. They're baby. They very well cared for, so they're not like abused animals. It's just an unfortunate thing that happened with them on the track. So they put their lives on the line, just like a football player puts his life on the line when he goes on the field. So they're true athletes, they're true stars, and it's just one thing that they're always trying to correct it. There's always medical attention at the tracks. There's always trained vets. They get the best care they can. So it's just an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation about it, and for all the people out there that's misinformed about horse racing and why some of these horses have to be euthanized. A lot of people that don't know anything about horse racing, they think like they're out there shooting them up and they're hurting them and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
And that's not the case at all. If you know anything about horses, their legs mean everything to them. And and a lot of times, any little thing happens with those legs, they have to put them down. So just so everybody knows that, there's not like these people, like you were trying to explain to them. It's not like these people don't love these animals. They treat them with the best care ever. They're saddened that their horses die, and stuff like that happen. Some of them even spend more money trying to save them. But I've heard all kinds of analysts and stuff of why this was happening and all that kind of stuff. I just thought we touch on it. But as far as the bets go with that, like you just mentioned to them about the 6 furlongs, so keep that in mind. That won't be going down. That should change a little some of how things, partake in the Breeders' Cup to some degree. But I think, and I'm always a conspiracy theorist when it comes out there. I always look at my paperwork. I do my honest capping, but I also keep the conspiracy theory in the back of my mind. And as many hits as they've been taking at Santa Anita because of this issue, the big race is still being played there to tomorrow and Saturday, and they got to give some of that money up to keep people coming back to the sport, man. I think it's going to be some good looks. It's already a design race for us to be some good looks, and I think it's definitely 20-1, 30-1. Everything is active.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Like I said, don't be afraid to bet any horse in those races tomorrow. Because if you got a beat on a horse and you think he's got a half a shot, it might be worth it to throw a $20, $30 or whatever you feel like throwing at him, and then put him in some exotics. Because there's always the thing about these Breeders' Cup races. If you got they're big fields, number one. So all the fields. When I say fields, for those who are listening, that's the number of horses that's in the gate. So usually you get like anywhere from 12 to 14 horses in a race. So normally a race would have like say 7, 8 horses. So now you've got almost time and a half a horse. So that means there's more money in the pool. You got bigger odds, and that equals big payday. So that's what makes the Breeders' Cup very, very exciting. Not just because from the beauty of the horses and the talent that they showcase on the grass or the dirt. It's just that the possibilities that you can fatten your wallet and enjoy a heck of a race at the same time. So, but
Yeah.
I got for those that are interested, I'll give them what I'm looking at for the it's called the juvenile. It's the 2-year-old juvenile. They call it the juvenile race. It's the classic. It's actually a mile and the 16th. It's race number 9, and whoever comes out of this race number 9 um, is usually the favorite going forward towards the Derby. So, like what happens with the Derby, what they do? They run all their prep races after the first of the year, but whoever wins this race tomorrow is going to be the early Derby favorite, and then you can start betting those in a futures pool too. But there's the one horse. His name is Dennis's Moment. He's an early line favorite. He's 8-5, and this horse he's ran 3 races. He's ran. They've been all in the state of Kentucky, 2 at Churchill's and 1 at Ellis Park, and he's fired off some pretty impressive victories. He's won his first race he ran. He didn't get out of the gate too well. He kind of I think he threw his rider. He was a 5-furlong race, first race. That's the thing you always got to remember with these young horses. Sometimes they get a little apprehensive when they get around these gates, but as they get more professional, the more experience they get, then they handle it better. But not to say they're going to do that every time, but sometimes they will do that. But anyways, this horse here, he's the one horse going off 8-5. After that mishap, he won his next race out. He won by 19 lengths. Yeah, and that was in a grade 3. And he broke his maiden in a 50,000, and then he won a grade 3 recently at Churchill Downs, and he won that by almost like 2 lengths. But his what's impressive was his times, and now he's sitting there at Santa Anita. He's working across the track out there doing his morning workouts, and that's the buzz horse right now. I mean, he's had a bullet work, and a bullet work meaning that when a horse works out in the morning, he's got the fastest time of all the horses on the track. Every time that horse has hit the track in Santa Anita, he's had the bullet work. Out of 51 horses, he had the fastest time. Out of 65 horses, he had the fastest time. And before he left Churchill Downs, he had 3 bullet works, 1 of 49, 1 of 37, and 1 of 80. So this horse is basically he's lighting it up right now, like our show, light it up.
Light it up.
This number 1 horse, I think he's going to light it up in race 9. He'll be looking at your early Derby favorite, Dennis's Moment. That's my take on the big race tomorrow for the 2-year-old. There's a bunch of other races too, but I won't break them all down that way for you. But that's the big race.
Well, me hitting the races with you a few times, I noticed a few things about your capping on races, and that's that your Florida horses front to back, side to side, north, south, east, and all that. And is there any Florida horses in this race that we need to know about?
In this particular race, yeah.
In Friday's races, shall I say? Not particularly this single race.
Oh, you mean
I know.
There's a ton of races.
Things. You put me on quite a few things to look for as far as which farms and stuff, and different stuff like that. We got some angles like that we're gonna use while we out there in Vegas.
I'll give you some angles, okay? If you want to look at an angle, here's one thing that I never do, and I think Jimmy and some of the other sharp cappers that follow horses, when you're looking at your program, it always tells you like where the horse is from. Basically, like if you're looking at your times on the form, like you'll see a GB out by the
Okay.
horse by the where they've raced. So that's a Great
Right.
Britain horse. You got
Right. Right.
FR,
Right.
which is France. So I never play shippers I never play. I call them invaders. Horses that come from other countries. They usually don't do well when they ship in for some reason. I mean, look at the Kentucky Derby. Every time a horse comes from um, Saudi Arabia or Japan or Australia or Chile or wherever they come from, they don't usually get the money. They get in the money, but they're not good enough to get across the finish line first. So always keep that in mind on your invaders. Except there's one exception to the rule, and this is key. This is not for tomorrow. This is going to be for Saturday. It's called the mile turf race. It's the Breeders' Cup Turf. It's 1 mile, and that race is guaranteed to be won by a European horse. They do it day in, day out. When they run over in Great Britain and Ireland and France over there, that's what those horses are bred to do. They're bred to run the mile distance. And there's a couple trainers, Godson and O'Brien, those two trainers, Aiden O'Brien, they usually come out on top in that race. I think O'Brien's won the last 4 out of 5 or something like that, or 5 out of 7, some ridiculous number. So keep a lookout for that Breeders' Cup Turf Mile on Saturday, and that's the only time you want to bet a shipper, or they call them invader from Europe or somewhere else in that mile race on the grass. That's a little note there.
That's right. You heard it first right here on the Boss and the Sauce show. That is the Sauce himself, horse racing guru. And I put a capital G on that. So I don't have much to add so far. But in tomorrow's show, Big Ragu, you think we should delegate some good time to a horse racing? Maybe bring on a couple horse racing cappers with us?
Sure. I'll give you one little tidbit for tomorrow too. Now I'm going to do the exact opposite on the 2-year-olds. See, now that's 3-year-olds and up on Saturday. Okay, that's the 1 mile turf race. But tomorrow for the babies, the 2-year-olds, they have a mile turf race also for 2-year-olds. It's the 8th race tomorrow, and there's a trainer. His name is Chad Brown. He's from New York, Saratoga. This guy is a money trainer. Whenever you see his horses hit the grass anywhere in the U.S. or anywhere else, for that matter, this guy always puts out top-notch horses. And I think he's won this race the last 4 out of 5 years, and he's got the 13 horse in race number 8. And I don't know if he's going to go off with the favorite because there's a lot of good horses there. But as a matter of fact, I'll look at the odds right now on him. Let's see.
Okay.
The horse, actually, you're getting a real good price on it. He's not even close to being a favorite. The horse's name is Selflessly, number 13. He's got morning lines 8-1. Chad Brown trained, Javier Castellano up on him. And you're going to get 8-1. And this guy has won the race the last 4 out of 5 years. So you talk about value. There's your value right there.
That's right. You heard it right here first on the Boss and the Sauce show. Every Thursday, 6 p.m. On the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And we have our guy, Big Ragu, from the hotel live from Vegas right now. And want to say what's up to some of our people out here in the chat. Flipper 13, Joe Rich Ramirez, Alex Ramirez, Paco Healy, Mr. Fat Fish is in the house, Joe Anisi, Capper John, you name it, they here, man. I appreciate all the support, man. And we're going to keep it coming, good content. I know this is a college football show, but if people who follow us closely, they know exactly what we do when it comes to horse racing. Even when we get a little further down the line and I jump over into college basketball, and Big Ragu takes a deep dive into hockey and all that good stuff. And we got plenty of more shows coming along that's going to be signature to those sports. So keep tuning in right here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And also you can check us out on 11 Sports Next on Twitch on their platform. So check us out all over in the places that we at, and keep joining the chat and spending some time with us. And we're gonna keep kicking out these winners. Now, y'all know, if y'all know us, Big Ragu, he's very thorough on his plays on Twitter. So make sure you follow Big Ragu 62. And we're not ones to brag about when we hit or whatever. This is normal everyday work. We're always moving forward. I couldn't even tell you what our record is on the show, but I could just tell you that it's good because we've been having positive weekends after positive weekends. So I'm sure when it all comes together, and you know, the proof is in the pudding, and you joined us. So let's kick them off a little college football. You ready to dive into that, Big
Yeah,
Ragu?
absolutely. Yeah, and then I just want to make a note too. I put the 2 plays for tomorrow that I recommended. I put them in the chat. So race 8, number 13, and race 9, number 1. If it don't come in, don't worry about it. I'll make it up to you another time.
Go buy a hot dog and rethink things. But that's what's up. So college football, I'm gonna jump into it first,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. Start with it, brother.
I'm gonna just, because it's the Boss and the Sauce show, I'm gonna swing for the fences and put my money ball out there. This is my money ball right here. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. in the morning, gonna take my first shot live in Vegas where they take all the action right there. And you know, after you pick the pick, that's when all the contemplation begins. So I've been contemplating this pick, but at the same time, this is a solid pick. We got Old Dominion going to FIU. Now FIU is 4-4 this year, 2-3 in the conference. They're 2-6 ATS. They're not doing as well. And when we did our preview earlier this year, it was a toss-up on which one of those teams was going to be better, FIU or FAU. And looks like FAU is kind of edging it out because FIU is not doing that well with Butch Davis over here. And this is his 4th year. I expected the best out of him. Now, quarterback Morgan – it's pretty decent with protecting the ball, just like Ian Book was. 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I like it. But the offense is still number 82 ranked. They're only doing 28 points a game. They're doing a total of 394 yards a game. And they do have a time of possession of 28.24 minutes or seconds, shall I say. But this team is they're running the ball 57% of the time. 40 carries a game for 194. So they're based on their run right now. Their pass is not really working for them. They pass 42% of the time and for 199 yards at a 57 completion rate. But the offensive line does do well and block. They only had 9 sacks for the season. So this is going to be a really tough game right here. And I'm leaning hard on the I'm not even leaning hard. I'm taking the under hard right here. If you add up the offensive yards between the two teams, we have Old Dominion, who is ranked 130th in offense. Now, their offense is doing 239 yards a game, 14 points per game, and 31 minutes in possession. Now, if you add up the 239 yards from the offense of Old Dominion, and you add that with the 394 from FIU, you got a game of total yards at 633, which is under 800 by far. So every sign implicates right here under. You got a team that can't play offense. You got a team that plays a little bit of defense, but they're not that good on offense as well. And the team that's horrible on offense on the other side is better on defense, and that's the traveling team. They have to bring the defense to have any chance in this game. So I'm heavy on the under in the Old Dominion FIU game. What you think about that, Big Ragu?
Man, that's a solid breakdown as I heard all year right there. I'm telling you what. I mean, I liked how you broke it down both ways as far as, you know, what they're when you looked at the splits that way, you know, so you kind of put 2 and 2 together more or less to kind of figure out which way the total was going to be based on, you know, just of course the stats and then the hard stats too. So those are good looks there. I like that. That's a solid look.
Yeah, that's going to be my stand-up play early 9 o'clock in the morning after my coffee, and we do the closing line. I'm going to be rooting for that one. I'm wondering if I should just jump out there first half or just wait on the full game, but I'm in Vegas. I might do both.
There you go. We'll see. We'll see you when you get here. We'll see which way you're. You already gave your play as far as that. So you think about doing a double up spot then, more or less.
Yeah, think about doubling up,
I
man.
do that. Yeah,
I've
those are
been
good
keying
looks.
on this all week. I had it capped at 45, and it comes out as 50. So I got a little cushion in my capping as well.
Yeah.
And it's a FIU's the favor by 17. To both of the teams are struggling. The other one only has defense. I just keep trying to, sometimes when you pick a pick too early, if you revisit it too many times, you bring up too many other
Yeah.
thoughts and stuff and kind of overthink it. So I keep revisiting it lightly, and I just revisited it now. That's why I did a thorough breakdown, and I'm convinced again. I'm convinced
Well,
again.
here's what happens when you start looking at stuff too much. Okay, you could talk yourself out of a lot of stupid things if you let yourself do it. Okay, so usually your first look and whatever comes across, initially, probably like 90% of the time is what you're going to be on anyways. But you can find enough stats to change your mind to go the other way. It's like when guys give stats, you can take the stats one way and put a spin on it and make it look like the other side's the right side. So the way
Right.
you did it was right. You got the hardcore numbers, you put them together, and you came up with your equation, and that's what you're on, and that's what you're on. I'll tell you what I'm going to be on tomorrow. I'm looking
Okay.
at this. I'm looking at this Boston College and Syracuse game. Now I made a mistake week before last with Syracuse, and I had that feeling, like when you push the button, you say, you got that feeling inside that says, I don't know if this is really the right play, but I'm going to go with it because I already opened my mouth at it. Well, I shouldn't have done either or. I shouldn't open my mouth about it, and I shouldn't have made the play. But they were abysmal. But this team here, they're funny because at home they play a little differently, and on the road they're terrible. But they're not a very well. They're a good coach team, but the talent hasn't developed around the coaching this year. So they've had some issues starting off with the quarterback play, but they can't. Their defense is a little suspect. I'm talking about Syracuse here, but Boston College, they've been a really pleasant surprise on the offensive side. They're able to score some points. They're averaging like north of 35 points a game. This team here, Syracuse is in the high 20s, but defensively speaking, neither one of these teams is playing a whole lot of defense right now, and they've been in shootouts, especially Boston College. They played up with some of the better teams. Their biggest loss was that one to Kansas early in the season, and that's when everybody started opening their eyes with Kansas and Les Miles when he got that big win on the road. But they've been involved in some pretty good scoring opportunity games, and this total kind of crept up a little bit. It's sitting right now. It's sitting at 60 is when I put it in. That was yesterday, and that's a look I'm on right now. I'm on the over in the Boston College Syracuse game.
I like that a lot. And I was on that other side of you on that Syracuse game that you took a while ago. But
Yeah, right. I remember
we
that.
was watching Syracuse on the. My look on that game was that they were at a turning corner of the season. If they were going to either relish the season or make something out of it, or what was going to go on right there, and they decided to fold right there. So I don't really trust them at home either. Like historically, they've been a really good home team because of the
Right.
turf. They've been fast, but if you look at it this year, they haven't been really playing that well on their own home turf. But I mean, I'm expecting fight out of them at any time, especially on the offensive side. And here they are at home with another chance. I like your look for the over right there. And Boston College is a team I thought I was going to have a good look on for the year, but like you said, the defense never showed up. So they're not that team they could be if they had an offense a defense because they opened up the offense a little bit this year. They said they were going to be more of a passing squad, and they do have AJ Dillon over there, but he was banged up.
Yeah,
he was banged up a couple weeks ago, right?
Early. Yeah, he's hitting the ground running now. He's pretty healthy and he's got some good numbers of late. So yeah, he's healthy right now, and that's kind of helped him out. That's why what I'm saying of late. The past couple 3 weeks, they've been really solid. Putting points up on the board. Defensively, another story, but they've been competitive in all their games too. It's not like they've been getting blown out ever since that Kansas debacle they had early in the season.
Yeah.
So that was one I was looking at, and the other one I was looking at was kind of in my backyard back in Florida. I was telling Jimmy about it the other night. UCF and Houston. We've made some money betting UCF They're a
Mhm.
powerhouse. But the freshman quarterback, when things are not going his way, he doesn't have the candor that Milton had. He's a freshman. He's
Mhm.
learning. I mean, he's a system player. He plugged in the hypo system. They got plenty of weapons, and they're surprisingly good on defense. Also, UCF. But they went up against it a couple times, and they kind of fell off the national radar a little bit. Everybody kind of got off the UCF bandwagon, but they're still
Yeah.
they're still scoring points. But the thing is, in this spot here, always have this thing about taking not betting first year coaches, which is our first year coach in Houston is Hogerson. He came over from West Virginia early in the season. They were more of a running team, as we noticed. We've seen that early look that they gave up with I think it was Cincinnati early in the season. I want to say whoever I can't remember the game,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
it was a game we thought they were going to. No, I'm sorry, it was Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma State, one or two. We were expecting a high total, like 70 some odd points, and all they did was run the ball the whole game. But this team here, the defense was horrible. I mean, they were dead horrible. I mean, they couldn't stop nobody. That's what was beating them really, because their defense was on the field the whole game. And the offense, had to try to keep their defense off the field, so they try to run the ball and just try to keep the other offense off the field. But I think in this game, they've been playing pretty good lately. But the thing I was getting at was, whenever you have a first year coach early in the season, I don't play on first year coaches. But when it gets
Mm.
late into mid October, early November, that's when you start to play his team, because now the lines have caught up, the value starts to catch up with the team, and some of their play calling, they
Right.
start developing, certain tenures and how they play. And I think this game here, 21 and a half points, it was opened up at like 23 and a half. It's down to 21 and a half. I don't think UCF is going to outscore them by more than 3 touchdowns. I think maybe 2.5 is what I was thinking. I'm thinking more like 17 points, possibly. I don't think they're going to beat them by 24, 28 points here. They're getting 21 and a half, so I'm taking Houston plus 21 and a half in Orlando.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that, after King did what he did early in the season with Houston, I thought they were dead roadkill. But they picked it up a little bit. They caught me in a Thursday night game and won a good one and got me on that one trying to fade them. But after looking at them after that game, they played well as a team that's been through some adversity. And yeah, I like them protecting that 21 points in that one. Now, my second look, so if I decide, I'm trying to, I had this little thing. My wife tells me all the time that I make all these studies and stuff, and I get to Vegas and I go the wrong way. And maybe some of y'all out there do the same thing. I have it all mapped out, and I get there and I do something different. So I was thinking, and I haven't made a concrete decision about taking that first half in the Old Dominion game. Now, that first half cash is great. But if the first half doesn't cash, I'm thinking about jumping in the Akron Bowling Green game. This game, I mean, Akron is bottom barrel. They may be I forget who was in that spot. I think Rutgers or UMass or UConn last year, where they just couldn't do nothing right.
Right.
And I think we had high hopes for Akron to get their act together, and they just totally went the other way all the way.
Yeah.
So that just says it's broken dishes in the kitchen. Ain't nobody eating. So this Bowling Green team, they played really well a few weeks back at home and pulled off an upset. And they don't have the offensive tools either. They're all
Right.
defense.
Right.
But they showed up that day and put up like 21 points or something like that. And in this matchup right there, I think they kind of big brother Akron and definitely get over the six. And the six haven't moved. The six been kind of solid the whole time. I think
Right.
it could be one of those points where they can't put it too high because everybody would go the other way, or it's one of those line setter moves. That's what a six is. It's kind of like a line setter move to try to get you to think. But those games can sometimes end up being big lopsided blowout games. And I think Bowling Green gets a chance to blow somebody out, maybe by not like a lot of points, but maybe by like 20 points or something like that. But I'm thinking taking Bowling Green in that one minus the points, maybe first half as well. And also, I'm kind of leaning the under in that one. What you think about that?
Yeah, Bowling Green is one of my plays tomorrow. Also, now you talk about moving the line. Now, in college football, it takes a lot of money to move the line. Believe it or not, it's not like NFL where they're going to come in and a sharp better per se comes in and lays a pretty good chunk down on the game. Not necessarily a big chunk, but when they start seeing the lines go or certain bets come down certain ways, that's when they move the line. But college football, not so much. It's a whole different animal. Now that these guys are like snipers behind the bushes. These sharps trying to find the best numbers to work with. But a lot of times on these smaller school, or I say smaller schools, these lower level colleges, especially like the Max and the American Conference,
AAC, yeah,
AAC. AAC is a fun conference, but the Big Sky, those type
Sun
conferences,
Belt,
Sun Belt. Those conferences, they do pay attention to those but they do keep limits on those, so they're not too worried about the sharp money on those games because, like I say, it does take a lot of money to move a line on that. So that's telling me either way, like you were saying, I don't think no big bets are coming in because if it was, that
it
line
would
would have
move.
moved up already. So I think it's one of those games that, they got really, like you were saying, that Bowling Green isn't they're better than Akron. Akron is a damn dumpster fire right now. But Bowling Green,
Yeah,
they're probably a notch above them, a couple notches. But I see them at least a touchdown better at home versus Akron. I mean, I can't see Akron really doing a whole lot of nothing. They're 0-8 on the season, and this they've given up. That's the team that's
yeah,
really given up.
yeah,
So I like that play. I'll back
yeah.
in. I'm backing Bowling Green there.
That's right. Maybe I could jump on the first half. We probably get a way better line first half. If they give me anything over a 3.5 in the first half, then Bowling Green is definitely the play.
Yeah, I would say so. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 4 points actually. But how many points is Akron actually going to score? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you need you need a touchdown or a couple field goals to cover that, and then that's basically what you need to do the game. So you might be if the number is not too high, it'd be ideal if you get three. Then that'd be a no brainer to play that if you
yeah,
get three.
yeah. But we'll see what happens. But now, if I don't play that game, and I win the first game, I don't play that game. Next game that's on my map of games that I cap, it will be this Colorado State UNLV game. Now let me go over my breakdown on this one and let me see if it makes any differences. I haven't looked at this one again since I first capped it out. So we got Colorado State at home, who's been through a lot of adversity for the year. They even lost a quarterback, had a guy step up, Pat O'Brien. Pat O'Brien's been doing good. Mike Bobo was sick last year and wasn't really able to make it tough during the season. And from the press conference that I watched, he's doing great this year. His health looks like it's for the better half at least. And this team, he keep pulling fight out of them despite whatever happens. Now this week, they do get hit with a suspension or something with Marvin Kelly, the running back. He had 703 yards on the ground and 6 TDs. Now, let's think about that in college football. I always tell people I'm not big on injuries in college football because there's always a kid sitting on the bench waiting to get in the game, and that's ultimately true right here when it comes to
Yeah, it
running
is.
backs. That 700 yards on the ground had a lot to do with the offensive line, the scheme, different stuff like that. Now they do run a zone block scheme, which takes a time for you to adjust to being patient and hitting the right hole. But they have two other backs that they've been running anyway in this situation. I think they'll do fine with this guy out the way. Now they do have impressively, even with their record 3-5, they have the number 19 offense in college football. It had to do with a lot of small games that they played. They scored a lot of points, but this team can really score. I mean, I watched them in, I believe it was the Tulsa game, and this team can score on the ground. They can throw the ball. They're balanced. They rush 45% of the time. They pass 54% of the time. They pass for 319 yards, and they run for 154 yards. That's a solid offense. 473 yards a game, ranked number 19, averaging 31 points a game. I mean, what else can you say? Pat O'Brien, the quarterback, has 8 touchdowns, only 3 picks. Now, let's take a look at UNLV. Now, UNLV is one of the most inconsistent teams in the Mountain West. When you think they dead, they jump up and run around and start moving. Their defense is ranked number 96. They're giving up 34 points a game, 426 yards. Um, they giving up 208 yards on defense on the ground. That's always a bad look when you're losing a lot of yards on the ground. Passing, they're okay though. They're holding them down to 218 a game at a 53% completion ratings, but they're small on sacks and interceptions. Full, what are we like? Seventh, eighth? Well, it's the 10th week, but some of these teams have played like 7 or 8 games, and they have 9 sacks on defense and 3 interceptions. That's not a lot of turnovers, not a lot of work over there. So defense kind of giving up over there, and then you got this high power offense that can really move the ball. They like to run, but guess what? UNLV likes to run too. They, even though they have the number 91 ranked offense, they average 24 points a game, 375 yards a game, which is bad. They rush 51% of the time for 169 yards, but they don't pass as well. They do it 48% of the time for 205 at a 49% completion ratings. And the bad part about the offense is they have given up 21 sacks so far in the season right here. So they're going up against Colorado State defense that bends and breaks. They're number 63. Opponents scored 33 points a game on them. They are giving up an even 396, so that means that they try. Now, the issue that I have with their defense is tackling. So one thing I always do when I cap these games out is I like to spot out the best tackler and the player on defense with the most interception. So sometimes when you do that, you'll get crazy results. Now, if the safety or the cornerback has the most tackles on the defense, that can indicate a lot of things because safeties are not supposed to have all that. That's the linebackers. The defensive linemen keep the people out of the way. The linebackers tackle the ball, whatever. That's just, normal stuff. But when you got a safety, Hicks, out there with 39 tackles, number 1 tackler on the team, no sacks, no interception. And by the way, he went to my alma mater, Gardena High School out here. But this guy right here in this defense, they're not going to hold this team. So I'm kind of leaning the over on this one as well. But I think Colorado State, you want to play fast ball and score. That's what they do. And they'll run it up on the UNLV. I had them to win minus 10.5. Spread comes out at 8.5. I catch it at an 8. It's back at 8.5 now. So what you think about that one? That was I feel like you were saying about the other pick, a pick that I'm just not I'm not really feeling it. It's the best logical pick on paper.
Yeah,
I did double checked it, but I'm just not feeling the 8.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way you go with that. I mean, if you're shy on a number, there's something that's getting you off of that number for a reason. So whatever that be, if you can't justify it, then you just, if I have any doubts, I just kind of pull myself off. Like I was looking at earlier. As a matter of fact, one I was looking at very similar was UCLA and the Colorado game coming up tomorrow night. Now, initially, I really liked Colorado, not Colorado. I liked UCLA, but I thought they were doing better than I thought they were. But evidently, they have been struggling scoring points. I know they had the big game against Washington State, when they came back and that miraculous win that they had against them. So I said, wow, maybe that was the switch that flipped on for them. I know everything went wrong for Washington State in that game for them to lose that game, but I thought I kind of liked UCLA here in this spot going up against Colorado. But Colorado, maybe the over is the better look than the side because they're both scoring like 35 points a game, on average. Not lately though for UCLA. They've been having some offensive struggles of late. I think they scored like 14, but they're playing a little tougher team. But Colorado's defense. One thing about Colorado's defense, you think their defenses can hold anybody down? What do you think about that?
Colorado been through a lot of adversity. They've showed some strong points. They've showed some weak points. They're kind of an unstable team. But if you go back, they play pretty good defense in big matchups, at least for the first half. Now, when games get away from them, they kind of just let them get away. But if they can be in the game first half, they're willing to do offense, defense, whatever it takes to stay in the game.
Yeah. And another thing I was looking at it this week. I was telling some of our cappers about it. Now, there was one angle I'm talking about teams with rest. How do teams fare against teams that have rest? So certain teams perform better against teams that have rested, and certain teams, it's like a total different animal. Like they don't have the success. So what I did is I went back and I started looking at some numbers on some teams that have struggled mightily against teams coming off of rest. I said, well, how do I find this info out? So I went over to that site, Team Rankings, right?
Hmm.
So I went in there, and if you pull down you can scroll down to different scenarios, you know, it can go year by year and go from a year to a certain year. So what I did was I took two scenarios. I took a team from 2010, let's say, and then I went from 2010 and ran those numbers, and then I went from a more current sample size. I went from 16 forward with the same teams. Just so I
Hmm.
want to give you one right here, and you tell me what you think about this. Okay, so UL Lafayette is playing Texas State. Okay,
Okay.
since 2010, when Texas State has played a team with rest, they're 3-15. These are straight up numbers now, but the key is the average margin of loss. Okay, so they're 3-15 since 10, averaging 25-point loss.
Mm.
But since 2016, when they're playing teams at rest, they're 0-5 with an average loss of 41 points. I mean that's something. And then
Yeah.
there was another one here too. Um, Now, Boise State. Now, what do you think about this Boise State? Let me ask you this: what do you think about this Boise State San Jose State game? You got any kind of look on that?
Man, I've been second guessing San Jose State like for too long. Last year, that was one of my big ones that I was riding was San Jose State at home. They were covering spreads, they all kinds of stuff. I predicted they first win when they got their first win last year, but this year, I kind of dropped the ball. They went way over there to I think the Army last week and really showed up. Like they went 837 miles over there and showed up and came back with the victory. Man, this guy has more wins this season already than he's had in the last 2 years at San Jose State, and it's a senior-led group with a seasoned quarterback. So I can see the 17 and a half, especially after watching Boise State on the BYU game.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're going to cover 17 and a half. Remember, we spoke about the quarterback situation, and I said that they should be fine. But in that game, they had to change things around. They brought both quarterbacks in. It wasn't working for a long time, and that contributed to that loss. Now, they have had time to rekindle that. I think they played that game last week on a Friday or something, so they even had probably an extra day rest. So I don't know. If I was gonna do anything, give me them points with San Jose State. They've been one of the most surprising teams in the Mountain West.
yeah, I said that too. It's funny though. You go back and you're looking at all the numbers for this week, and I had this conversation came up earlier in the day. I'm surprised. Like there's some huge numbers on some mediocre teams that are laying. Like tonight, I mean, we know App State's a game, but they're giving up 17. Like Auburn's giving up 17. I mean, Auburn's not one of these teams that you would classify as a powerhouse on offense, but that's what I'm saying. This is a very tricky week, so you got to pick your spots here because I don't think there's a lot of solid. There's, there's not a real, off the charts game that really stand out to me this week. That's why I'm trying to do some different type of research to kind of not to find different angles, but just to kind of to see how things pan out. And
Yeah,
speaking of Auburn, right? So I was telling you how I was looking at teams versus rest, how they would fare against teams. Now I was looking for teams that would that rest doesn't bother them. Like if they face the team that their
mhm.
game actually improved versus a team coming off rest. And Auburn was one of those teams. Funny enough. Now since 2010, Auburn they're 11-2 when they face a team off of rest, and their average margin of victory is 21 points, and it's an 85% win ratio. That's
Well,
pretty impressive right there. And guess what? They're a 17.5 point favorite this week. Am I going to lay Auburn 17.5 points? I don't think so.
I'll tell you another thing about that game, and I was on Ole Miss heavy. I thought I was going to ride Ole Miss for a while early in the season as an under team, but what happened was the quarterback situation over there got a little better, and they started scoring a little more teams. So they haven't been as under as I thought they was, but they still have been playing good in some games. I think they even showed up for a few quarters against a big team like Alabama or something this year. And here they are against Auburn. I wish somebody snapped the head off of Auburn. No reason for this team to be running around so, but then showing up strong in the big games. I mean, this is not going to work in the playoff system where you got to win 2 wins to get the national championship. No way Auburn can do that. And I think some team is going to expose them. Now, I would be on this game 100% and the points with Ole Miss. Early in the season, they had 10 returning defensive players. They played like they had 10 returning defensive players. But guess what? A lot of them are hurt now. They got a lot of injuries over there. And that's what's keeping me from taking Ole Miss in this game. So that one is a pass for me. But I want to go back to your Texas State. So I was just like you this week and going through some alternative looks. Let's call it that. Some alternative looks. Because going into this week right here, I think it's going to be a real chalky week. Like we didn't got our good upsets. We didn't already change the game. And next week is going to be the week when the conversations come about, the championship game and bowls and all that kind of. So who's going to a bowl, who's not. That's not really a factor right now for a lot of teams. So that's why I think makes it a lot chalky this week. And then you got to kind of duck and dodge and pick the right spots in this one. So I did look for some alternative angles, and I was looking at teams who punt a lot, because teams who punt a lot shows you that the offense is not really doing what it's supposed to do on this side. Now, teams that don't, like ranking it on teams that don't punt a lot, could be risky because either they could be don't have a good kicker, a bunch of stuff. But teams that punt a lot shows that the offense gets on the field. If that matches up with a third down percentage and some other things, you might have something cooking. But speaking of teams who punt a lot, guess who's on my list?
Texas State.
There you go, right there. 6.7 punts a game, Texas State. So I think I might have to open up that homework book and jump back into that game because I plan to make some real money in Vegas. Like making that offshore money at home is fine and dandy, but the whole thing that I could go and win all the money in the sports book and take it all somewhere else on the strip and lose it all.
Just don't take it to the strip clubs. They'll get it a lot faster than the books will.
Then that's exciting to me. And every time I make it to Vegas, I haven't been all year. I usually been and went twice by now. But because we were having this little get together, I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait. So this is my first time in Vegas since the season started, and nothing but good things, and got to take my time. So yeah, that was one of the looks that I had. A couple looks that I looked at. So I looked at third down conversions, teams that were bad, teams that popped up. Number one, South Alabama, a team that kept popping up in bad stats. Miami, they have a 3.1 conversion on third down percentage or whatever. Then we got UNLV, who's 3.4, and then we have Georgia Southern, and that's why I was on that play right here, and they're doing mighty good against App State. So I don't know what to say about that. Oklahoma made this list, probably because they don't get a lot of third downs because they score. UTEP made the list, and Fresno State made the list, and I faded Fresno State and took the 14 with Colorado State last weekend, and it cashed big time. And this time they go on that little island, and this is probably one of the worst offensive teams Fresno State had in a while. And Old McDonald, that's what I'm gonna call him. Old McDonald over there at Hawaii, he the line is rising. I think it came out at 1.5. I capped it as a pick 'em. Now it's up to about 2.5. And I think if we have a bad day and we have to go back to the bank and grab some more cash, then we definitely going to be playing that Hawaii game on the late night.
That's the degenerate special. Now you talk about you talk about keeping keeping stats to kind of figure, look, I wouldn't leave, you call them alternative, but a key stat in football is definitely the third down conversions, for and against. I always use that. That's always a key, especially mid-season to late season. And then, of course, you always have the turnover plus or minus turnover ratio, which is a big, big thing. And probably like one of the old school capping points is uh, uh, points per yard. That shows you how
Yeah.
efficient the offense is. So you keep whatever angles you take to your approach to the game. Whatever you find your comfort zone, whatever works for you, that's what you do. Why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about a little bit of the Georgia Florida game, and we'll put a bow on it. How does that sound?
That sounds like a winner to me. But Georgia, Florida, that's your neck of the woods. Only thing I can see from watching the two teams, and I watched them both. We all know Florida got their issues on offense with the quarterback situation. That's suspect every week. Georgia, what I noticed when they played Notre Dame, maybe Brian Kelly might have exposed them a little bit. That those guys are big, but they're not that fast. So what Notre Dame did on defense, and they had the best looking defense all year when they played Georgia, was they just went around those big guys. And, they didn't have to do that. But here you go in this matchup. This that's what this conference is about, slugging it out in the trenches and all those big
Yeah.
guys. Georgia might have a chance to put some hands on Florida, but I don't know. Florida is not. Florida's always been known for speed, a little more than size. They only had to size up to compete in the SEC. So I think in this one right here that I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Georgia could take them, but
Yeah.
Florida's defense is pretty good as well.
Yeah,
But
Florida's missing the last game they played. They were missing their top two defensive players, and they still eked the game out. They got the job done, and it'd be a little different look. They're both coming off rest. That's another thing we're talking about rest earlier. So I would give the nod to Georgia here. Georgia has had some success in this game, um, more so recently than Florida overall. I would say. I mean, evenly long term, the season's been pretty. I mean, the series has been really, really even. This is one of them games that probably I'm going to sit back on the sidelines and watch and have a couple cocktails with you tomorrow. It's going to be the game of the day. There's not a whole lot going on within the top 25 tomorrow. I think there's like one or two other matchups, but this one's going to be the big day, the big game of the day. It should be a good one. I think it's 6 points if I'm not mistaken, and I think the under is like in the mid 40s. So I don't want no part of the under on that game, even though it's probably going to be a trench game. But
mhm.
we'll see. I think it's going to be a touchdown either way. So I'm not I'm not convinced. I'm convinced Georgia is probably going to be the better play, the better side, but I'm not convinced that Florida isn't good enough to make a couple of things happen with that solid defense that they have. And Georgia's got a pretty good defense too. Don't kid yourself. They might be They might have a little bit more of a seasoned offense versus the Florida, but the Florida, I think the onus is going to be again on the Gators' back for the defense to make some things happen, and Georgia not to make the mistakes turning the ball over. That's probably going to be the difference in the game. So it's the biggest cocktails in the world, and we're definitely going to have a couple cocktails watching this game.
Absolutely, absolutely. One more thing before we get up out of here and put a bow on this one is back to that Colorado UCLA game. Just so you know, that was another thing that I looked up is teams that had over 6 injuries in the month of October, and Colorado comes up on that list. Nose tackle last week, 10-7, questionable for Saturday. QB from last week, undisclosed injury, questionable for Saturday. DB back on the 9th of October, out for the season. Cornerback the 9th, also out for the season. Offensive lineman on the 8th, medical reasons, never came back, out indefinitely. So they took a lot of hits in Colorado on the defensive side, and I think
Yeah.
Chip Kelly he wants to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I did play on Colorado. I mean, I did play on UCLA minus 6.5. Hopefully that stays with under a touchdown. I got a feeling before kickoff it's going to go north of 7. So if you're
Yeah.
interested in UCLA, I suggest you take a look at the line movements currently and make your decision whether you want to get on them or get off them. But I think it's a good look if you put it in early. I think it's going to go north before it goes south.
Yeah, I like it, man. So we're gonna go ahead and put a bow on this, man. Who-Bangin Sports, Boston the Sauce Show every Thursday, 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. on the East. We thank everybody in our chat, Joe Rich Ramirez, Nasty Nate, Cappers Investment, our guy Twatty Lottie. He will be with us tomorrow. I don't know if Twatty does horse racing, but he'll be with us tomorrow as well on the Who-Bangin Sports Lounge, and we're going to be live from
Good.
Vegas. So he's getting a very special spot to hang out with us on the
Heck
special
yeah.
event,
He
and he
deserves
deserves
every
it.
minute. Yeah, I was gonna say
Exactly.
he deserves every minute. He's a stand-up guy. He cares about the community, and he's definitely a positive influence on what we do. So thank you for your hard work, Matt. We appreciate that, my man. And of course, all the guys in the chat, we appreciate you guys too. Every one of our low baggers and any one of our who bangers, we're gonna call them now, right?
Hey, yeah, that's right. And one thing I can say for sure this week that's gonna reign true is I see you at the window.
I'll see you at the window and have my money ready.
All right, man. See you in
All
a
right.
few hours.
Be safe.
We'll
See you
do.
guys next week.